News.
Good evening, I am Ryan Broom with the Thursday, May 31st edition of the CBC Evening News. In our top story, Barbados' economic situation is even worse than expected. This was the grim picture that Prime Minister Mia Mottley painted as she briefed the media after government's first full cabinet meeting today. And of course, we'll have more on this in the evening news. Well, Barbados' newest government senators are ready for duty. That's because they were officially sworn in by Governor-General Dame Sandra Mason today at Government House. However, there will be a brief delay for at least 2 of the appointed senators. Among those appointed to the upper chamber, the new president of the Senate, Sir Richard Cheltenham, Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Minister, Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott, Innovation, Broadcasting and Public Affairs Minister, Senator Lucille Moore, and the youngest of the appointees, attorney-at-law 28-year-old Senator Damian Sands. Also included is Senator Dr. Ramel Springer, who is Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education. The other senators included Rudolph Greenidge, Lisa Cummins, Rudy Grant, Lynette Holder, and Dr. Crystal Haynes. The Governor-General wished all of them well in their new roles. Following the swearing-in ceremony, Attorney General Dale Marshall explained the absence of the other proposed senators, Rawdon Adams and Kay McConney. He says a constitutional amendment has to be made to change the existing law, which says that in order to qualify, appointed senators must be ordinarily resident in Barbados for 12 months prior to their appointment.
In the case of Mr. Adams, well known of significant Barbadian pedigree, the son of Tom Adams, he's been resident in Barbados, having relocated here almost 12 months ago. Kay McConney, also a distinguished Barbadian, currently resident in Canada. You may know that Ms. McConney was our Consul General in Canada at one point in time. And she now has to resume residence in Barbados. This therefore means that we will have to make a constitutional amendment. We exist in a very global community, and Barbadians have served with great distinction across the diaspora and in other parts of the world. And therefore, we think that it is important for us to make this amendment so as to be able to allow for all voices to contend and all individuals who have a contribution to make to Barbados to do so. We expect that this amendment will be made on Tuesday. Mr. Marshall says the proposed amendment would come after next Tuesday's throne speech and first session of Parliament at 3 in the afternoon. Mr. Marshall explains once the amendment is made, the 2 senators will be sworn in and the Senate would then be able to meet in its full complement next Wednesday. Meanwhile, the youngest government senator to be sworn in, Damian Sands, reflected on the significance of his appointment.
Well, I'm ecstatic at the moment. I might seem calm, but inside I'm jumping with joy. It's a historic moment for me, obviously. I'm the youngest person in the Senate, I'm 28 years of age. It was definitely not anything that I was anticipating, so when I was asked to be a part of the team, I believe that I was privileged and honored to be able to come and put my good intentions and my hard work being an attorney at law into the field of the Senate.
Senator Dr. Ramel Springer also looks forward to his new role.
I'm elated to be part of the team that Prime Minister Mottley has put together to move this country forward. Of course, my area of focus will be in education, and I intend to make my contribution in that area. Having been part of the teaching service at both the secondary and tertiary level, I have, I wouldn't call it a unique perspective, but I think I have a perspective that could add to the transformation and to the vision that Prime Minister Mottley has for this country.
The Senate is expected to officially sit for the first time next Wednesday, June 6th. There's another key constitutional amendment that will have to be made when the first session of Parliament takes place in the afternoon, after next Tuesday's throne speech. According to Attorney General Dale Marshall, it will relate to the Governor-General Dame Sandra Mason being able to make 2 opposition appointments to the Senate to reflect the party that polled the highest votes in last Thursday's general election.
There's perhaps not a raging debate, but there is some disagreement between the legal luminaries as to what the Constitution truly provides. And in that regard, we think it unsafe to proceed on the basis of the Constitution as it is presently set out. And we would therefore want to make a specific constitutional provision so as to allow the Governor General to make appointments to the Senate in these circumstances so that they'll be representative of the political party that would have achieved the most number of votes at the polls.
And the Attorney General says he is not aware what official position the Democratic Labour Party has taken as the party which polled the second highest votes in the election.
All they know about the stance of the opposition, of the former opposition, is what they say in the press, and that stance appears to be currently divided. So we'll see if there's any less confusion after we actually are able to present to them the opportunity to nominate. I rather suspect they'll probably accept it.
It was confusion in the river terminal this morning. That story and more coming up in the CBC Evening News. Welcome back. Well, as we said before, Barbados' economic situation is even worse than expected. And this was a grim picture that Prime Minister Mia Mottley painted as she briefed the media after government's first full cabinet meeting today. Our Shane Jones was at government headquarters this evening.
Those are the words of Prime Minister Mia Mottley on finding out the details of the financial situation of Barbados. In fact, she referred to it as the financial equivalent of the South Coast Sewage Project. Prime Minister Mottley revealed that her administration was saddled with a debt of over $1.3 billion, making Barbados the third highest indebted country in the world. She described the country's deficit as unacceptably high, adding that Barbados' ability to finance it was severely compromised by printing of money and several downgrades. The Prime Minister says the arrears were recorded in the vicinity of $1.7 billion at September 30th last year.
Outstanding wire transfers as per the Accountant General's records were $621.4 million. University of the West Indies, as per the last audit confirmation, was owed $229.7 million, and state-owned enterprises $467.7 million, bringing to a total of $1.315 billion. And when we add to that approximately $345 million owed by the Barbados Revenue Authority, you see that we are on or about approximately $1.7 billion.
Ms. Mottley says there are large amounts owed by statutory corporations, and she will receive updated figures next Tuesday. The Barbados Water Authority owes over $70 million, along with others.
I need not tell you, therefore, what I'm likely to find at the Transport Board, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, the National Housing Corporation, the National Conservation Commission, the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. The figure that we have here is a paltry $10.2 million, but the Minister Mo has advised that the actual debt of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation is in excess of $125 million, so that these figures do not appropriately capture that. Sanitation Services Authority, the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., it is a woeful state of affairs.
Attorney General Dale Marshall indicated that a number of deals were made in the period when Parliament was dissolved, which have attempted to effectively tie the hands of government.
It is imprudent to try to bind the hands of a new cabinet, should a new cabinet be taking over. It is taking up an awful lot of ministerial time and staff time to be able to try and ferret out. Instead of going forward and addressing our serious issues, we have to now spend time looking to see what kinds of potentially harmful things have been done by this administration.
Chief Economic Counselor to the Prime Minister, Ambassador Dr. Clyde Maskell, said while the situation was worse than expected, he assured Barbados that a competent team was handling the situation. So Prime Minister Mottley has said this is where we are. Tomorrow, she will let the nation know what she will do. Shane Jones, CBC News.
Thanks, Shane. Well, the River Bus Terminal was a massive confusion this morning as a surprise spot check operation by the MTW left many van drivers and passengers waiting. Again, Shane Jones reports.
From 8 this morning, there were major delays in the Constitution River Terminal as transport inspectors from the MTW carried out major inspections on compliance. Long waits were the order of the better part of the morning as many route taxi operators found themselves or the vehicles they were operating on the wrong side of the law, despite many warnings. That's according to MTW Transport Inspector Eugene Brewster.
A number of these vehicles are not in compliance with the Road Traffic Act with respect to their condition, the outlook at the condition, and a number of them don't have the required badges in order to work because conductors must have a badge, drivers must have a badge. And if you don't have a driver, a conductor, you should have, the driver should have both badges in order to work. And a lot of the vehicles, like the route taxi sign, just say taxi, it's supposed to say route taxi. Some of the vehicles, the number plates are defaced, some of the vehicles ain't properly painted, some of the vehicles, the wheels, in terms of the tires, if you look at them, they're carrying normal passenger vehicle tires rather than what is required for vehicles that carry a maximum load of, let's say, 14 passengers. And seats are in poor condition, they don't have the fire extinguishers. A number of things are wrong with the vehicles.
One PSV operator argued that with respect to drivers and conductors, the same rule must apply across the board.
A transport board bus, a driver is who deal with the passengers. They don't deal with the money dropping in fare, but they issue a passenger with a ticket that is still dealing with the passenger. If the drivers or Zara vans have to have it on minibuses, taxis got to have it, Zenons got to have it, because all is the same thing. They're transporting people.
The operation lasted until midday. Shane Jones, CBC News.
Thanks, Shane. And before we continue that, the full rebroadcast of that press briefing by Prime Minister Mia Mottley will be rebroadcast, as we said, at 9:30 tonight. That's the full press briefing by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, rebroadcast at 9:30 tonight on CBC TV 8. Well, going on with the news, women entrepreneurs continue to face greater challenges accessing credit than their male counterparts. This is according to the Executive Director of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Pamela Coke-Hamilton. Making reference to a 2014 IDB report, Ms. Coke-Hamilton says the evidence in the disparity in accessing funding is well documented. She says women need to form their own network to deal with the issue of financing.
The reason why men are able to access these networks, and I've seen it over and over again, they can pick up the phone and call a friend in either one of these banks, one of these angel investor groups, one of these companies, and they can simply get access. The Old Boys Club is real, and it's an Old Boys Club because it works. And I think it is necessary for women to begin to form those kinds of networks and connections and connectivity, not just for cocktail circuits, not just to talk about other stuff, but women need to be able to form those kinds of strong networks that provide financing, that provide access to funding, that provide the kinds of ins, whether at the banks or at the credit unions or wherever it is that funding is, so that they can also access it.
And Ms. Coke-Hamilton was speaking during a seminar under the theme Accessing Finance to Become a Reality for Caribbean Women-Owned Businesses at Radisson Aquatica Resort this morning. She says another challenge facing women entrepreneurs is the failure to graduate out of the informal economy, which excludes them from benefiting the support that could help them to move past the micro stage of development.
And of course, a common reason for women's inability to access credit is due to the lack of collateral required. This issue is beyond the scope of this project, unfortunately, but I wish to highlight it and appeal to the banks in our region, donors and central banks, that we must work together to creatively overcome this obstacle. There has to be another way to collateralize and give value to something that is not just tangible. We have to be able to collateralize the intangibles, the ideas, the projects.
Well, still to come, we'll look at some of the stories making headlines across the region. Welcome back. Well, in regional news tonight, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, says natural disasters aren't the only type of disaster hindering development in the Caribbean. Instead, he's suggesting that the region is also facing off against a growing medley of man-made catastrophes created by more developed countries. Prime Minister Brown says these include financial de-risking and coercion to accept constraints on the trading of goods and services in international markets.
Those who control the global trade and financial system insist that competition in the areas of their advantage are good, but they deny us the right to compete in financial services, particularly in differentiated taxation to attract investments. They have sought to deny us our right to operate well-regulated investor immigration programs, gaming and offshore banking industries, using the deceptive notion that these industries are harmful to them. The reality is, their policies are harmful to us and evidently designed to keep us in economic dependency.
In St. Lucia, a 44-year-old man is nursing a gunshot wound to the face following yet another shooting in Castries during a robbery early yesterday morning.
It was an early morning nightmare for Denise Edward and Elford Cax St. Luce, a couple operating a roadside eatery near the Cicero bus stand on St. Louis Street. The couple arrived at their establishment, the First Food Shop, sometime close to 5 o'clock Wednesday morning to prepare for the day's sales. But things quickly took a sour turn when an unmasked male individual entered the shop demanding money. At that time, St. Luce had gone into their CDC apartment to get coins and heard his partner screaming as he returned. Denise Edward describes the sequence of events.
He took the money that was in the drawer, that was more important to him than people's life, so that's what he wanted. He put his gun in my face. He tell me, open the safe. I tell him I don't have no safe. What safe he wants? I open the drawer. He take the money that was in the drawer. He tell me, where the rest? I take out the container. I tell him that's all they have there. Yeah, every time I turn my back, I just head bow and you shoot him in his face, it come out through his neck.
According to sources, St. Luce's injury was not life-threatening. He remains in stable condition at the Victoria Hospital.
What I want to tell these people out there, they will do that and they will not stop. I will still keep on being in that shop at the same time. If they have to kill me, that's where they're going to come and kill me, because people cannot be working so hard, and you all just come and just shoot people innocent just like that for no reason. What reason? For penny halfpenny? And not to say it's no big amount of money he get in the shop, Get a job. Find something to do. Make use of that time.
Well, the authorities in Guyana believe more should have been done to prevent the deadly plane crash in Cuba recently, since authorities there were aware of the defects of the aircraft. We get more in this report from HGP TV.
The aircraft involved is believed to be a Boeing 737-200 on loan from a Mexican airline. The Guyana Civil Aviation Authority had made known to its Mexican counterparts of its investigation into that airplane. GCAA Chairman Colonel Lawrence London feels information should have been circulated to the International Civil Aviation Organization. The very aircraft was banned from Guyana a few months ago, and Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority, Mr. Egbert Fields, explained why.
Our investigation was sparked mainly because of an observer who saw the aircraft taken off and reported to my chairman. And my chairman brought it to me about this report he got on the takeoff of this particular aircraft, which started the investigation, in which we found a number of discrepancies when the inspectors went out to do their what we call ram check.
The plane was one of the oldest commercial aircraft in service, almost 39 years old. It was first flown by the U.S. airline Piedmont in 1979 and had flown for many other carriers. Mr. Fields explained that Mexican aviation authorities even used the plane to travel to Guyana, during which time the GCAA informed its Mexican counterparts of their investigation. Mr. Fields said the Mexican authorities were to provide some response to the GCAA, but never did. But the local authority just had to go forward with its work.
We took the action we did because we thought that it was in the interest of safety of our skies, and we decided to terminate the operation of that aircraft.
Meanwhile, chairman of the authority's board, Mr. Lawrence London, felt that Guyana should have done more to prevent the tragedy.
While we were able to prevent it from happening over Guyana, maybe we should have done a little bit more through ICAO to prevent it from happening, period. And that is something that we will look at, and I'm sure the Prof is going to bear me out when I say that our relationship with ICAO must be a little more robust.
The investigation, which was launched by the Civil Aviation Authority, revealed that the Mexican crew of the aircraft was allowing the overloading of the plane in the cabin itself, with walkways being blocked and even the washrooms were being used to store bags.
The government of the Bahamas will be increasing value-added tax, or VAT, to 12% as of July 1st. This was revealed in the government's 2018 to 2019 budget communication implementing the policy agenda and securing core fiscal objectives that was presented to Parliament by Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Peter Turnquist. The government projects the VAT increase will help it reap US $1.2 billion in revenue in the next fiscal year, a 60% increase compared with the forecasted VAT revenue for 2017 to 2018. Turnquist said that this was indicative of the government choosing not to wait until it is too late to shore up the economy, but opting to act now and act responsibly. Well, a look into the world of sports is just ahead, but first here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
The symptoms of asthma are wheezing, shortness of breath, persistent cough, and tightness of the chest. If you have any or all of these symptoms, consult your doctor immediately. This tip is brought to you in association with the Asthma Association of Barbados.